Hey guys, in this video we're going to go over some basics of the lymphatic system. Now this is a body system that you might not have learned about in earlier science classes, but it's a very important system in your own bodies. So what is the lymphatic system? This is a system closely linked to your cardiovascular and your immune systems, and it's really all about fluid balance. So there's a small loss of fluid from your blood into interstitial fluid. So in short, it goes like this. Blood flow leaves behind this fluid that the lymph system picks up, and this is due to osmotic pressure in your capillaries. So the lymphatic system is going to collect this excess fluid, which we call lymph, and return it to your blood. And then vessels separate. These are separate vessels from the blood vascular system. Now, the fluid balance, homeostasis, is a big part of the lymphatic system, but another function is protection. So the lymph passes through your lymph nodes, which contain a lot of immune cells. These are large populations of lymphocytes, and these are going to protect against pathogens and is going to destroy other traveling things that could be dangerous to your body. And then also fat absorption is a function of the lymphatic system. So dietary fat from the digestive system is going to be absorbed in the lymphatic capillaries. So what are the main parts? We have our lymphatic vessels, which are going to receive the lymph, that fluid, from the lymphatic capillaries. Remember, these are separate vessels from your blood vessels. There's also lymph nodes, which you might have heard of before. The lymph passes, so this fluid passes through the lymph nodes, which act like filters, and these are named for where they are in the body. So, for example, your occipital lymph node is in the back of your head, cervical lymph node is in your neck region, and then you have things like your lumbar lymph nodes, and you have a lot of these throughout the body. Then there's the lymphatic trunks, which after the most proximal lymph node, the lymphatic vessels merge into these lymphatic trunks, and then from there, all the lymphatic trunks drain into one of two main ducts, and eventually these are going to drain into the left or right subclavian vein. And so eventually this is how they all get back into, all the fluid gets back into your blood. So sometimes you might have been to the doctor and he kind of checks in your neck, or he or she checks up in your neck, and they might be feeling for your lymph nodes, which are part of the immune system. And so you can palpate for them, you can touch for them to see if you're fighting an infection. And sometimes your lymph nodes might be swollen if you are having an infection, or if you're infected by something. So if your lymph nodes are infected, they could be firm or tender, enlarged or warm, and this inflammation can kind of spread, and sometimes they can be reddened. So sometimes doctors will check and see if they can touch and see if those lymph nodes are swollen. Okay, so how does this all work? There's a network of vessels that are like veins in your lymphatic system that is going to collect this interstitial fluid, and then the vessels carry that fluid to these large lymphatic ducts, empty into the subclavian veins, and then it goes back into the blood vascular system. So eventually we return all that fluid to where it needs to go in the blood. So some of the main tissues involved in the lymphatic system are going to be your lymph nodes, the thymus, the spleen, and your tonsils, all of which you might have heard of before. So again, the lymph nodes receive the lymph from the lymphatic capillaries, and they're going to filter. The spleen is going to be the largest lymphatic organ, and you can kind of see it in this diagram up here. It's located between the stomach and the diaphragm. Generally, it's going to filter blood, store blood. It has other functions as well, but that's how it's involved in the lymphatic system. Now, the thymus is really interesting. It's behind the sternum, and it's going to be the maximum size at puberty. So your thymus is the largest it'll ever be when you're going through puberty. And then it's kind of interesting because after that, you don't really need it as much anymore. So the thymus shrinks and its tissues are replaced by adipose or fat tissue. And so because you have sort of a reduced role of the thymus in adulthood, you don't need it anymore. And so what happens is the thymus is producing a lot of its T cells, these T lymphocytes, while you are going through puberty, and then the rest of your body kind of does the job on its own. So tonsils are also a part of the lymphatic system, and these are multiple groups of large lymphatic nodules, and they're kind of the first line of defense against ingested or inhaled pathogens. So if your tonsils are inflamed, you might have tonsillitis, which is not comfortable either. So let's talk about some other diseases of the lymphatic system. Lymphedema is sometimes going to happen when you have an injury to a lymph node, and this is where we get water retention in a limb or another part of the body, and it's a side effect of a blockage of the lymphatic system, of a vessel or a node within the lymphatic system. Now, lupus isn't a direct disease of the lymphatic system, but lupus is an autoimmune disorder which attacks your immune system, so you could have negative effects on your lymphatic system if you do have lupus, so they're connected. And then, of course, there's lymphomas, and these are cancers that are going to arise from the unchecked growth of your lymphocytes. We have two main categories. We have Hodgkin's lymphoma and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma as well. So that's about it for our lymphatic system basics, and we'll be going into more of this in class. Thanks, guys.